first pick in the 2019 NBA draft, the New Orleans Pelicans are on the clock, and I think everybody knows who they are taking. Not RJ Barrett, man. Clearly, they are going to go with the guy I wanted the Bulls to get, man. The guy I wanted the Bulls to get, Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson. New Orleans is making a big splash this offseason. I really like what they're doing. And hopefully they are successful, especially now that they have Lonzo. I wanted Lonzo in Chicago. But if Lonzo's having a successful career, I'm fine. The next team on the board is the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, the Grizzlies have been in a lot of conversations lately, a lot revolving around a certain point guard on their current roster, and that is Mike Conley. Now, Mike Conley could be on the move this offseason. I think he will be, because with the second pick in the 2019 NBA draft, I have the Memphis Grizzlies selecting point guard out of Murray State, Ja Morant. This man has a lot of upside, very good passer, very good scorer. The one thing I don't like about him is he's not that great of a defender, so hopefully he can develop that for them. But at his ceiling, he's a much better player than Mike Conley. I don't know if I'd go as far to say he's better now, but if Ja Morant fully reaches his full potential, he is going to be a better player than what Mike Conley currently is for the Memphis Grizzlies. And one key thing to note, they're not paying him $32 million a year like they are Conley. That's a big upgrade if you ask me, if you're getting rid of Conley in favor of Ja. So Mike Conley hasn't been traded as of this point in my video, but maybe he will be, maybe he won't be. Now, the third pick in the 2019 NBA draft belongs to the New York Knicks. Everybody and their mother wanted the Knicks to get Zion with the number one pick. Everybody was calling it Zion to the Knicks, Zion to the Knicks. The Knicks ended up getting the third pick, and Zion ain't going to be there. Ja ain't going to be there. But there is some interesting prospects for the Knicks. They have RJ Barrett on the board. They have Darius Garland, DeAndre Hunter, Kobe White. A lot of interesting picks. But the two guys I had to debate here were really Darius Garland and RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett has been the consensus number 3 overall pick for a very long time. But as of lately, since the combines and stuff was going on, Darius Garland is starting to garner more hype because people are starting to realize he's the real deal. Darius Garland is going to be good. It's a reality now. Darius Garland came off the injury from Vanderbilt, and now people are putting stock into his name. It's a high-risk, high-reward situation with Darius Garland, but everybody is seeing what Darius Garland could be in the NBA. However, I think the Knicks are not going to fully envision that. I know that they are taking a deep look into Garland, but I think RJ Barrett is their call at the end of the night on the 20th. Now, here's where things get a little interesting. The New Orleans Pelicans hold the 4th overall pick in the 2019 NBA draft, and it's pretty cool, but I have all my trade notes up here. So what I have happening here is Boston is going to trade up with the Pelicans, because let's be honest, the Bulls have the 7th pick. Chris Dunn's not going to garner any attention. They're not going to give Lowry or Wendell. Then the Grizzlies. What do they have else outside of not the Grizzlies, my bad, the Timberwolves? What else do they have except the 11th pick in the draft? Not much they can offer unless they want to go out and try to be interesting and throw some unorthodox player at them that has some upside. But I don't think the Timberwolves are gonna go that deep. I have Boston, since they have the most trade bait. I have them trading their 3 first-round picks here to move up to 4. They are trading the 14th, the 20th, the 22nd, and a next round second. So a second round pick this year for Boston, is going to be handed over to the Pelicans so Boston can move up. And Boston has been closely regarded to a certain point guard, and that is Darius Garland. They are starting to think of life without Kyrie, because as we all know, Kyrie is kind of not so blatantly telling them he ain't going to return with ghosting them. So I think Darius Garland is the right move if you are Boston. You have to give up 3 first-round picks. That could be something good, but if Darius Garland's your guy, go for it. You're moving up 10 spots. It's worth it. The next pick I have is actually somewhere I had to struggle a little. I was thinking of maybe guys like Cam Reddish. I didn't really want to put Kobe White here because Cleveland already has their point guard in Colin Sexton. I don't know how good he's ever going to turn out to be. He didn't have a phenomenal first year, but I don't think they're going to give up on him that soon. I mean, the players don't like him, but I don't think it's that soon that they're going to give up on Colin Sexton. But the guys I went through here was DeAndre Hunter, Kobe White, and Cam Reddish. And at the end of the day, I think that DeAndre Hunter is the best fit for the Cavaliers. Cam Reddish, we know he's a shooter. I don't want to say he's a great shooter. He's had some moments, but Cam Reddish he's a scorer. He's a scorer. He's the lesser version of a RJ, but I can't see him slipping into the top 5 to Cleveland. DeAndre Hunter, phenomenal, 6'7", very lengthy defender. Really, he can score. You might as well take the small forward out of Virginia, DeAndre Hunter, to pair along with Colin Sexton, who's not a great scorer himself, but he can score. And Kevin Love, at this moment, he might be traded in this draft. I don't have him being traded, but he might be getting traded sometime in the next few days. But DeAndre Hunter, that's who I got Cleveland taking. Now, the 6th pick was very, very easy. Phoenix has reportedly been in love with a certain point guard, and believe it or not, it wasn't Darius. It was actually the other one, the one I want in Chicago myself, and that is Kobe White. Kobe White is a phenomenal player. He's a great scorer. I loved watching Kobe White at North Carolina. It was one of my favorite things to do, and Kobe White, I've seen, he's a very on or off switch kind of guy. He can either go for 31 night or shoot for 15 shots and make 2 of them. But Kobe White is a very high energy player, very fast paced. It could go very well with Phoenix with their young core, and I would love to see it. I mean, you have Devin Booker, I believe he's like 23. DeAndre Ayton, very young. TJ Warren can still get up and down the court. He's like 24, 25, I think. I mean, their team's young. Kobe White's a fast-paced point guard. I would love to see what he could do in Phoenix. It's not a win-now scenario, but it could make Phoenix an interesting team and at least get more than what they've been winning. Maybe they can get around the 30-win mark next year with Kobe White, because Tyler Johnson ain't it. Elie Okobo ain't it. Next, we have the Chicago Bulls at pick 7. And I actually have this being the most unorthodox trade you could ever possibly come up with. So, the Bulls, we know they want Garland. We know they want Kobe. But both of them are off the board now. Kobe just went before them. And I was thinking, what team would it make sense for the Bulls to trade down with? And I was looking at Atlanta. Atlanta has 3 picks in the first round. And they actually wanted to package the 8th and 10th pick to move up further into this draft. But the scenario is that I have the only trade I have so far is Darius Garland to the Boston Celtics. And that's simply because they're offering him 3 picks and a second this year. And the only thing that Atlanta can offer them is the only thing they're going to offer them is the 8th and 10th pick, because I doubt you're going to add a 17th pick, because that's offering a whole lot, because that's still 2 lottery picks for that. So I'm going to say they don't trade up for that, and this is actually going to be an interesting trade. The 10th and the 17th pick are going to go to Chicago for pick 7, and now the Hawks can do a little bit of what they want, and they can get Nasir Little at number 7, from UNC, and Atlanta also has the 8th pick, and I have them taking Cam Reddish from Duke. Both of these guys are small forwards, but I believe Cam Reddish can play shooting guard in the NBA based upon the way he can stretch the floor. So I would really like to see those two guys. And a big side note about Nasir Little is that he is a phenomenal defender, and you put him alongside a good shot blocker like John Collins, it might be a decent team next year. It might be an exciting. They were okay this year because Trae Young could shoot. It was okay. It was fun to watch, but it could be very interesting seeing Cam Reddish, Nasir Little, John Collins, a lot of exciting young players. Nasir Little's not exactly the most exciting, but he's a good player, could play great defense. I would love to see that be a scenario for them. Okay. Next, we have the 9th pick in the draft. It belongs to the Wizards. And the Wizards here, they kind of lack a big man. Now, there's a lot of big men in this draft that I'm not too high on, especially in the lottery, but they're good big men. They're first-round big men, but I wouldn't like to take them in the lottery necessarily. Brandon Clark is one of them. I have him going 9th simply because there's no big man in this draft outside of Bol that I look at and I'm like, that guy's he has a high ceiling. Now, Brandon Clark very well could be a very good player in the NBA, but I don't see him with superstar potential, and within the top 10 picks and even in the lottery with the top 14, I would like to think that it's the pick that you're trying to build your future around. And I don't know if you can do that with Brandon Clark, but Brandon Clark could be a very good NBA player for Washington. I'd like to see him develop into something nice, and Brandon Clark is going to be the guy that I put on Washington to go alongside John Wall and Bradley Beal. Two very good guards, and John Wall might be on his way out soon, so that's the best I can offer you guys. This is where, like I said earlier, things get a little unorthodox with the Bulls. My Bulls. Simply because I think Pax is going to be a little on edge here. He misses out on Darius. He misses out on Kobe. So he's going to get a little crazy here and try to sort of revamp this Bulls team. And it's going to be a little unorthodox. But the Bulls are going to trade the 10th pick down, and they are going to pick up the 19th and the 29th pick, along with a second rounder from the Spurs, for the Spurs to move up 9 spots. And the Spurs at pick 10 are going to take Goga Bitadze. I do not know if I'm pronouncing his last name right, but Goga is a center from Mega Bimax. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right but it is a overseas team, and he is a very decent big man. He feels like a Spurs kind of player, and I can't guarantee that he's going to be there at pick 19. And the Spurs, I mean, they have Jakob Poeltl. You have LA, LaMarcus Aldridge, but I think you need another center to go alongside LaMarcus. You got DeRozan, you got all those guys, you got Patty Mills, you got Derek White, you have DeJounte Murray, but I think you need to add a center into that rotation, and Goga feels to me as if he is a very Spurs-like player. You know how the Spurs like to dip into the foreign overseas pot and try to strike big, and if anybody can make Goga into a star, it is going to be Popovich, and you know it. Popovich is one of the best coaches of all time, and it really does feel like a Popovich pick. So Goga B is going to be going at number 10 to the Spurs. And the next pick here is Minnesota. Now, Minnesota has been rumored to want Darius Garland as well. Everybody wants Darius Garland. Nobody wants to trade up and get Zion. Everybody knows nobody's going to get Zion. Everybody wants Zion, but nobody can get him. New Orleans never traded that. But right now, the biggest name on the trade market for the draft, at least, that everybody wants is Darius Garland. Minnesota is also one of those teams with the 11th pick. Like I said, they struck out. Boston beat them to it. and Minnesota is going to have to cut their losses, and they're going to have to take a guard on a decent level. I wouldn't say this guy has anything similar to the stature or even the ceiling that Garland has. I love Romeo Langford here with Minnesota, but I don't think he's going to be anything like Darius Garland. Romeo Langford, I believe, is 6'5", something like that. He's a bigger shooting guard, a very tall shooting guard. Romeo Langford can handle the ball. He's a very good point guard. He can run point guard. He's a very good shooting guard right now. Darius Garland is also a very good point guard. But Romeo Langford is probably the best thing to a ball handler you're going to get at this pick if you are Minnesota. Assuming that your Derrick Rose is not going to come back. Assuming that you guys aren't going to go try to make a splash for a Kyrie. I don't even think they have the cap space to make a Kyrie move or a Kemba move. But Romeo Langford, very good guard. You can get him at 11. It's probably the best option you have this offseason if you are going to try to get an upgrade on the guard position. So Romeo Langford is going at 11 to the Minnesota Timberwolves. The next pick here is actually the Charlotte Hornets. The Charlotte Hornets here, last year they went Miles Bridges. I have a Miles Bridges jersey right there. I'm not going to get it out. I actually do have a jersey right here for later in it, but it's just a fun part. But Charlotte, I have taking the best player available. It's the mindset you have to be if you're Charlotte. I mean, you have Kemba as of right now. I think they're probably going to re-sign Kemba. You have Miles Bridges. That's about it. You have Nicholas Batum, if you want to say that. They need a big man. Bol could be an option here. Kevin Porter was an option I was considering here. Nickeil Alexander-Walker was an option I was considering here. But I think you go best player available, and the best player available is Jarrett Culver, a guy that I think has top 6, top 7 potential, but I think is going to fall down the board based upon who is in front of him and what teams need. So Jarrett Culver has stopped his fall for now, and he is going to find a home in Charlotte. The next pick I have is actually a pick that I really feel is a great fit. Miami needs to find their next D-Wade. And when I think of D-Wade, I think of a great scorer, a great player. Now, this is a little unorthodox because of who he is. Kevin Porter, we know he has his issues, but Kevin Porter Jr. is a very interesting prospect to me. He's a good scorer. He showed great spurts at USC where he could take over games. And when looking at this man's draft profile, they compare him to a Justice Winslow kind of character. I wouldn't say that. I mean, Justice Winslow last year had a phenomenal year, but I think Kevin Porter has a higher offensive ceiling than Justice Winslow at this point. And I would really like to see Kevin Porter in a Miami jersey, if I'm going to be honest with you guys. Kevin Porter would be your starter. I guess you could have Kevin Porter's 6'5". I mean, you could. Just Winslow's like 6'7". Move Justice to small forward if you want to keep Goran in there, but Justice Red's a point guard last year, so. But either way, I think Kevin Porter is the right decision if you are Miami. It'd be fun. It'd be fun watching him. I really do like that option. And as we said earlier, the Pelicans are back on the board with the Boston pick. And the pick here that I have them taking is Jackson Hayes out of Texas, center. Now, this is a little awkward of a pick. Now, I picked Jackson Hayes here because I was thinking, what will the Pelicans need? Because the Pelicans want to trade this pick, number 4 down, and I'm like, what is the most logical thing for them to want? They have Lonzo, they have B.I., that's your point guard and your small forward. You're gonna have Zion, that's your power forward. So right now, it's between shooting guards and big men, a true center. And I can't see a guy like Tyler Herro, Nickeil Alexander, Rui, KZ Akapala coming here. But I think it's not a bad spot for Jackson Hayes. Jackson Hayes is the last pick in the lottery. It's going to be a nice fit next to Zion. Jackson Hayes is not going to be the offensive powerhouse that Zion's going to be, but he could be a very good side piece to the Zion movement that's going to be in New Orleans. Jackson Hayes, very good player. I liked watching him out of Texas. He should be a nice fit next to Zion. The next team we have is actually the Detroit Pistons. Now, this is a little interesting here. When going to Detroit, I was thinking of shooters. They need shooters. And the best shooter in the draft, at least to me, I mean, sure, there's guys like Dylan Windler, Kyle Guy, those kind of guys. But those guys kind of feel like they're coming later in the draft. They're not. Tyler Herro is also a very interesting case. I feel like he could be a later pick or he could be a top 10 pick. He's a very interesting case, and I actually do have the Detroit Pistons taking Tyler Herro. He's a good shooter out of Kentucky. I liked watching him. He has his games where he's not hitting shots, but he has those games where when he's hitting, he is hitting. That man is either on fire or he's cold, but very hit or miss with Tyler Herro. But if you can get a guy like that in Detroit, I think it's not going to be anything detrimental for them. Right now, they don't have many big scorers except Blake Griffin. Andre Drummond's not going to get you 20 points a game. Reggie Jackson's not going to go get you 20 points a game. You might as well add Tyler Herro, very good scorer from beyond the arc, just to add maybe 11 points to the team night in and night out. So he could be a side piece to what they're trying to do over in Detroit, which is build that team all around BG Blake Griffin. Next, we have the Orlando Magic, and Orlando Magic, after this point, has to be devastated. The Orlando Magic need a point guard, and when I'm looking at the Magic, Darius Garland, Kobe White, very, very good players, like I said earlier, every team. Orlando is not going to have anything to move up and get either of those guys unless they try to trade away their current pieces, which would be something like an Aaron Gordon or a Jonathan Isaac or maybe a Mo Bamba if you want to get crazy. But Orlando, I don't think is going to be willing to move those pieces, and definitely not alongside the 16th pick. And I think that since you're probably going to have to sit here with your pick, you might as well take the point guard, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, out of Virginia Tech. This is a little high for him. I feel like Nickeil should be around the 20, 25, somewhere in between that range. But he's a very good player. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, one of the reasons Virginia Tech had a very good season this year. But I don't know if he's top 16, but Nickeil Alexander-Walker is probably the best option for the Orlando Magic at this point of time. Next, now you'll see what this jersey is all about. With the 17th pick, my Chicago Bulls are going to select number 1 out of Oregon, Bol Bol. As you know, I'm an Oregon fan. As you know, I'm a Bulls fan. Bol Bol is going to be the guy for Chicago. Now, you might be looking at me and being like, what about Lowry? What about Wendell? See, the Bulls are, let's just say, John Paxson's not the smartest. We're going to have an interesting scenario next year. It's either going to be Lowry running a small forward or Lowry and Bol Bol playing backups to one another. If this is the case, I know it's a little unorthodox. I know, but don't put it past Chicago. Don't put it past us. Guarantee you that this is a real possibility. Guarantee it. Bol Bol is a very interesting scenario for the Bulls to take. He's a good scorer. Bol Bol is a phenomenal scorer. He went out of the NCAA very early, 10 games, injured his foot, done for the season. But he was scoring 20 points a game, had a couple blocks a game. Very good defender, very good offensive player. Bol Bol has range. He's 7'3", very skinny. You want to put weight on him, just like how Lowry needed weight on him. The Bulls were able to help Lowry kind of get some more weight on him. Wendell still needs weight on him. Wendell's probably he's the shortest of them all, so he could technically run small forward, but he doesn't have that really kind of build. Wendell's he's a shot bot. He's not an offensive guy, but he could turn into that. But Bol Bol would be a very interesting scoring option for Chicago. It's a little unorthodox, but who knows? It might just work for Chicago. Now, next we have the 18th pick, and that is going to be a pick that belongs to the Indiana Pacers, and that is going to be Rui Hachimura. This is a guy I didn't watch much games of. I watched a few Gonzaga games, especially the one against Illinois in the Maui tournament, where Ayo Dosunmu almost let us back. But Ayo's going to be drafted top 10 next year. Rui, no, he's not. Rui is a very good. He's a very good player. He's a good scorer. He's a decent defender. Rui has a lot of NBA potential. I don't know how great he's. I don't know if he's going to be ever something special in the NBA, but he can be a very good NBA player. And the Pacers need a very good NBA player because they do not know at this point whether or not Bogdanovich is going to return. They do have Victor Oladipo coming back next year. Unfortunately, he got injured this year. They have Darren Collison, a very playmaking like point guard. But Darren Collison, you could maybe replace him, but Rui is a small forward, power forward kind of guy, and that'd be a nice piece along Miles Turner. Miles Turner is not necessarily your scoring big man. He's just a big body. He's gonna absorb in the paint. He's gonna try to be a rim protector, but Rui could be a decent player alongside those kind of guys, especially if Bogdanovich does not return to Indiana. Now, like I said, Chicago, unorthodox. This is getting interesting for Chicago. Chicago struck out big on their top two prospects, Kobe White and, of course, Darius Garland. But Chicago, they have some interesting parts here now. They have Bol Bol, which probably the most high ceiling in the draft. It's the highest risk, the highest reward. Nobody knows what you're going to get out of Bol Bol. He's either going to be very good with a very high risk potential on him, or he's just going to be an average NBA player with a very high risk on him. And at 17, I think that's what you need to take. But at 19, this is a very high risk, high reward player also. Sekua Doumbouya. Now, Sekua is actually from Limoges. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It is an overseas team. He's 18 years old. 18. And this is a kind of guy that he's not ready for the NBA, but he is a guy that you're going to draft now and stash for later. You're going to want to have him now. It's going to be like a Giannis kind of guy where you get him now, you're going to stash him away a couple years, train him a little bit, try to reach his fullest potential, and then in maybe 2-3 years, Sekua is going to come out and he is going to be a star for your team. And I think that is exactly what Chicago wants. Chicago, they struck out on Darius. They struck out on Kobe. Now you're waiting for next year. You're waiting for that point guard class next year because there's no point guard in here that's going to help you this year. You want the Cole Anthony next year. You want the Anthony Edwards next year. So you might as well take some projects, try to get them to be stars for when you can get that point guard of the future in Chicago. Because you're not going to get a Kyrie this year. You're not going to get a Kemba through the free agency. They have like $20 million in cap. They can't even afford them. And next is also very interesting. 20th pick belongs to the Pelicans. This is a very interesting pick for me because this guy, he's a very good scorer. I loved watching this kid play at North Carolina, and his name is Cameron Johnson. This is a guy that not a lot of people were talking about until the second half of the college basketball season, but this man lighted it up. Cameron Johnson, one of my favorite players to watch this year in college basketball. He's a very good defender. He can score the ball off the rip, but he doesn't have the ceiling that some of these other guys have, and that's not his fault. I really do enjoy watching Cameron Johnson play, but I don't think he has the highest potential. He's going to be a very good NBA player if he fully reaches his potential, but I don't think he can be that superstar. He might be a borderline all-star, but it's a very interesting pick for the Pelicans. I think he's a guy that might be able to average around 19 points a game at his best for New Orleans. And the Thunder are a team that they have to be kicking themselves at this point. I was thinking maybe Rui for them. Maybe they go out and they get a Tyler Herro, maybe a Kevin Porter, maybe a Sakua. But none of those guys are there, and they got to be kicking themselves. They didn't get one of the guys with the highest potentials in this draft at a very high risk, high reward scenario. But the one guy that struck out to me, a very talented player. The only problem is I believe he was a junior, maybe a senior, I don't even remember. But he was on Tennessee for quite some time, and that is Grant Williams. Now, Grant Williams was not my favorite player from Tennessee because that was Admiral. But Grant Williams, very talented player, very good big man, power forward. Something that the Thunder don't necessarily need because they have Jeremy Grant, they have Steven Adams, but it's a very decent option to put behind a Jeremy Grant. Next, we have the Pelicans. And the Pelicans, once again, using Boston's pick to make good for themselves. And they are going to take yet another scorer. And that is going to be Talen Horton-Tucker out of Simeon. You might be like, what is Simeon? It's a school in Chicago. But out of Iowa State. Simeon has produced some phenomenal players, including Derrick Rose, number 1 for Chicago. Talen Horton-Tucker, very good player. I liked watching him last year on Iowa State, and he's sort of a bigger build kind of guard, but that's something that the Pelicans could use right now because Lonzo's kind of skinny. He's a good playmaker, so that's good for him, but they need a scorer. Talen Horton-Tucker is one of those kind of guys. Next, we have Memphis. And you might be thinking, this pick belongs to Utah. What is going on? What just happened? And, well, here is the trade I have. The Grizzlies are going to trade back up into the first round. I know, shocking. Shocking. For the 23rd pick. Now, the Grizzlies here, they're going to have to give up Mike Conley to Utah. But Utah on their own, is going to give up the 23rd pick and the first round pick next year for Mike Conley. Utah wanted to make a splash. There's your splash. Next to Donovan Mitchell, you have Mike Conley. And then you guys can go win with Rudy Gobert. Make the playoffs next year. I don't doubt they'll make the playoffs. I just don't think they're going to be a legit contender. But Memphis, Kezi Akapala is the guy out of Stanford. Kezi is a very interesting prospect. This is a guy that I looked at earlier in the year. I was like, he might be decent. And Kezi has sort of died off a little bit. There was a one point where he was considered to maybe be a top lotto pick, maybe a top 14. But Kezi's kind of fallen off. His hype's kind of died down. Kezi Akapala is a player I like, but I don't know how great he's going to be in the NBA. But definitely worth the risk at pick 23 for Kezi Akapala. Next, we have the Philadelphia 76ers, and this is a need. The 76ers are not a good three-point shooting team if you take away J.J. Redick. They're not. They are not at all. So, the thing here is, you need a shooter, and I don't even know if J.J. Redick's going to return, and I think the best shooter left on the board outside of Kyle Guy, which I think is a little early for Kyle Guy. I think Kyle Guy is a second-round pick. He could very well be picked here, but I don't think he will be, let's be honest. Dylan Windler at Belmont. He had a really good performance in the tournament. We've seen it before, like Curry, phenomenal performance in the tournament out of Davidson. Ends up being a top pick. Dylan Windler's one of those guys that I look at and I'm like, he could have made himself a big name. He might have been a guy that went undrafted if Belmont didn't make March Madness, I guarantee nobody would be talking about Dylan Windler. He'd be a guy that's trying to fight for himself in summer league. Nobody would have eyes on Dylan Windler. Nobody would have noticed that he's shooting about 50% from the three-point line. I think it was like 48%, something crazy. Very good shooter is Dylan Windler. Next, a team I really enjoyed watching this year is the Portland Trail Blazers. Now, Portland, let's be honest with you, they have two great guards in Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum. They have two good centers in Enes Kanter and, who's the other one? This is going to make me mad. Oh, I know that Myers Leonard. Enes, and who's the other one? Jeez, man. Nurkic. He started for him this year. Jesus. Anyways, you have those two guys. You need some forwards because I'm not super high on Amino being a starting forward, but PJ Washington is probably the best option at forward here. Sure, he is a power forward at this point, but I think he has the build that he could move down to small forward if need be, especially if you want to run Nurkic and Kanter if you do decide to re-sign Kanter with a qualifying offer and or match his contract with your bird rights. So, PJ Washington is a very interesting prospect for the Portland Trail Blazers. Next, we have Cleveland. Once again, I don't think they're going to give up on Colin Sexton just yet. I don't know where they're going to go with Kevin Love, but if they are going to keep their current team, they are going to need an actual big man alongside Kevin Love. Let's be honest, Tristan Thompson is not that great. Daniel Gafford is the guy out of Arkansas, a guy that I, at one point, considered one of the best centers in the draft. He still is one of the best, but I don't think he's as high anymore because we've had guys like Brandon Clark emerge, Jackson Hayes emerge, a couple of those guys moved in front of him. But Daniel Gafford, still a first-round pick, going to Cleveland at pick 26. Next, we have Brooklyn taking best player available situation here. You don't know if D'Angelo Russell's going to be around next year. You do know Spencer Dinwiddie's going to be around next year. You don't know what your power forward situation is going to be. Sometimes you had Damari Carroll running it. Sometimes you had Rondé running it. I don't like that. But you are going to need a guy that can play guard and forward, and Keldon Johnson is that guy out of Kentucky. Next, the Warriors. We know what the Warriors want. The Warriors want to win. The Warriors need a player that is a big man. Draymond, there's your big man. Who's your other big man, though? You need a center. Who do they have on roster? Bogut? Please. Jonte Porter, go. Jonte Porter can go right alongside Draymond. Jonte Porter can make plays. He's a very good playmaker. Jonte Porter can score the ball. Jonte Porter is a decent defender out of Missouri, just not very high ceiling. But we know that you don't need to be high ceiling to win a championship if you're on the Warriors because you have Curry and you have Clay. Clay, hopefully you get better. You have KD, maybe KD, hopefully you get better. Draymond's still going to be there. Curry's still going to be there. Quinn Cook's going to be there. They're not in any danger if you are Golden State. Jonte Porter, you can go on over to Golden State. Chicago, once again, unorthodox Chicago. They took Bol Bol, they went and got Sakua, and now they get another pet project for a couple years down the road, and that is a big-time scorer out of Carson Edwards. This guy could be like a Fred VanVleet type of player. He can come off the bench behind a Cole Anthony in 2 years and be a kind of guy like Fred VanVleet, being able to step up in the big moment and be able to make big-time shots and make a big-time mark and make a deep run in the playoffs with him as your sixth man. And the last pick of the first round in this video, I'm losing my voice. A guy I liked watching, especially during the the Pac-12. I should know this. Oregon's in the Pac-12, but Washington had a very good run in the Pac-12. Oregon beat them. A little break. I had a phone call, but Matisse Thybulle is going to be the guy out for Milwaukee. Matisse Thybulle, as I said, is a very good player in the Pac-12. He had a fun run against Oregon. Matisse Thybulle is a very good defender, one of the best defenders in this draft by far. And Matisse Thybulle is the kind of guy that you can look at and say, you know what? We might not have got the top guys in the draft. We might not have got Zion, but we got a very good quality player with this kid. Matisse Thybulle, actually, believe this or not, had the Pac-12 steal record. Pac-12 steal record. Matisse Thybulle. Very good defender. Very good defender. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. June 20th It's going to be a big day next Thursday. Can't be more excited for the NBA draft, especially if Chicago makes a big splash. Yeah. I would love to get Zion. I'd love to get Darius. I'd love to get Kobe White. I'd love to get Bol Bol. I would love to get Carson Edwards. I would love to get Sakua. I would love to get most of these guys, actually. There's some guys I might not be so fond of, especially in a Chicago uniform, but you can't win every battle. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys go follow the Twitter at GamersGoonYT. And same thing over on Instagram. Make sure you guys click the like and the subscribe button. And keep tuned in this week. We're gonna a lot of videos coming out this week. We had one Monday for the Bray Wyatt information. Now we have the Bulls and the NBA mock draft. On Thursday, I might do a little reaction video. Maybe on Friday. Friday's the Stomping Ground preview. Oh my lord! Don't say that again. Oh. Bad. It might be pretty bad. And then, of course, on next Monday, we're going to have a little chit-chat about Stomping Ground and how it was. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys do click that like and subscribe button. I will see you guys next time on my channel.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy, GamersGoon. Thank you for watching the video anyways. But I just wanted to come on here and tell you guys, yes, I do know that Mike Conley has been traded to the Jazz for Jay Crowder, Kyle Korver, and some other stuff. But I did film this video beforehand. This is going back through when I'm editing, so I just wanted to let you guys know I do know, but I'm not going to re-record the video. So the 23rd pick is not going to end up being the Grizzlies, but it could be. You can just place the Jazz in there, I guess. Either way, I hope you enjoyed the video.